just really want to get your feedback on the depth of topics, how much we cover. And I'm going to touch on a couple other things that we wouldn't normally talk about as homebrewers too. So let me know how that goes. But I think, the overall goal is to keep you guys healthy so that we can enjoy this hobby for our entire lifetimes. So what are we going to talk about here tonight? I think mainly it's balancing our love with homebrew with the other important areas of your life. Some of you guys may not have struggled with this, but I certainly did. And so I'll spend a good part of the presentation talking about the details of how my journey from losing 75 pounds in 18 months and how I kept it off for over 2 years now. But first off, I do want to say I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm not even an expert. I'm just a student like everybody else here. Everybody's different, and what worked for me may not work for you. But I just, I haven't talked much about this until now. I think if some people had asked me, hey, how did you lose weight? If it was just going to be a 5-minute conversation, I'd say something like, hey, I've just been watching it, or I might say, I've been cutting carbs or something like that. But I think the most important thing I did to go through that journey was actually mental. And so I'll talk about that a little bit tonight. And I feel a little awkward because I've never talked about this really in public, maybe one-on-one with some of you guys. So why do I call it hacks, healthy homebrew hacks? You guys probably heard the term before, but hacks are tricks, tips, secrets, shortcuts to help you get some desired result in the easiest possible way. And that's kind of what I'm trying to present you, a summary of the little tricks and things that I learned. That way you'll get some early results and you'll be encouraged to continue. We definitely won't be able to cover all the details, and hopefully I can just point you guys in some directions. Enjoy some good beers together here and have some fun. I won't be able to monitor their chat, but I'll listen for Jessica to laugh so that I know when Law Dog has said something new. And we'll call that a success. But I just want to get the conversation started tonight. I hope this is something that we can continue to talk about as homebrewers. And I definitely look forward to the discussion and questions afterwards. So I'm going to try to wedge my slides into 40 minutes, but I know from running through it this afternoon, I ran a little long. So a lot of people ask me to speak a little bit more slowly. I'm going to ask you guys to listen quicker. But jot down any questions or anything that isn't clear, and we'll have time afterwards. I also want to acknowledge that how pulling this together over the last few weeks, how relatively unimportant this all seems in light of the corona virus and the concerns we all face there. But I think it was Lauren in our board meeting group to test out Zoom on Sunday night who said that, maybe there's never been a better time to have a homebrew meeting discussion of a health topic. So I'm going to take it at that and go on from there. I think on the bright side, if there are any of you guys that are inspired by this tonight and want to, try things out or get learning, at least you got some free time to find out what information is out there and maybe practice your cooking and figure out how to, make some healthier alternatives. So. Okay, so I want this presentation to be fun, but also want to be open and honest with you guys, and I hope that in some way my journey connects with yours in some way. So I wanted to start off with just a little bit too much information for you guys, for you folks who don't know me. I'm 46 years old. I was raised near Philadelphia in a working class family. I went to college in Colorado, and I'm a geological engineer. I moved up to being a project manager for a environmental consulting firm, mostly doing soil and groundwater cleanup in LA and Riverside sites. As a home brewer, I started brewing in Boulder back in 1994. And moved to San Diego in 2001, so I've been here almost 19 years. But when I moved here, I was in small apartments, so I put my gear in storage. Didn't really brew very often. In 2007, I moved out to a house in Poway with a 2-car brewery. And then I invested in all grain equipment, and things kind of took off from there. I joined Barley Engineers back in 2007 when we were meeting up at Churchill's. And the enthusiasm that I saw at that meeting and the creativity and stuff, I went off the deep end and just became basically obsessed with beer from there. Ended up joining Quaff in late 2008 and took the BDSP exam in early 2009. Kept going from there, won the Quaff Homebrewer of the Year in 2011 and 2013. Traded off and on with Brian Trout, alternating years there for a while. Back when it only took 15 points or 30 points to win the thing, now you got to have 60 points to win it. So that should tell you something. I'm a BJCP Grandmaster Judge, a Mead Judge, a Cider Judge, and I've been the West Region representative for California and Hawaii from 2014 through June of this year. I'm going to be stepping down from that position, but it's been a lot of fun there. And I've attended, like Andy said, every National Homebrewers Conference since 2010 up in Minnesota. And so I've met a lot of you guys at those things, and that's where we really get to know each other. But basically, I've just been an old Boy Scout, trying to earn all of the homebrewing merit badges. Here I am. Carry on here. Okay, so let me see. Start with a little trivia point. Did you guys know that 20 pounds equals a clothing size? So you can see here back 2009, enjoying some good beers up at the, and this is my journey from 2XL down to somewhere between large and medium now, depending on the shirt and the company. Bluesapalooza there in 2009. November 2014. Let me see. You can tell I have my Fitbit on there. That's nice, and I'm wearing the NHC 2011 shirt. See, April 2016. This was just before my peak weight, but I was pushing 255 and at Disneyland wearing my slightly tight 2XL Churro t-shirt, and always enjoying the Carl Strauss ride at California Adventure most. Then between NHC 2016, where we were in Baltimore, and NHC 2017, when we went back to Minneapolis, I did some things and lost 60 pounds. So you can see me there, April 2017 at the, that was Burning Beard's anniversary party. The Creepy Creeps played, and enjoying my 200-pound plateau, checking out some beers. I'm wearing my XL or large shirt. Then, over the months after that, I got down to my goal weight of 180 pounds, and I've basically maintained that plus or minus 5 pounds, depending on the trip to France and Belgium or the trip to Disneyland. And so the last picture there was just my birthday, February this year, back at Disneyland in my new size large Churro t-shirt that has actually a little bit extra room in it. So still enjoying the beers, but knowing how to balance it out a little bit better than I did before. Thanks, Nick. I can only see a few of you guys' faces. I'm not sure how it's choosing who's up at the top, but nice to see. Basically, how did I get there? So I used to play ice hockey a lot, and somewhere in that 2000, yes, Ryan, thank you. In 2009, I sort of hung up the ice hockey and picked up barbecuing and homebrewing as hobbies, and that was good for a 20-pound swing there. And I'm not trying to push anybody else to change here. If you're happy with yourself the way you are, I really hope you stay that way. I'm just here to show you that it's possible to make some changes if you want to. And it may be easier than you think if you got the right knowledge and skills. I found myself, for the first time there, with a little extra money, working hard at work, traveling for work, and I learned to really enjoy eating out. The efficiency of convenience of just buying food, and so things added up. I get annual exams for my work as an environmental consultant, and my doctor told me I'm on the line for morbidly obese, and by the way, my liver enzymes were all out of whack. He basically said I had made foie gras of my liver. basically creating little fatty deposits in there that was affecting my overall health. So, you know, there was alarm bells going off at the time. But also, I had been listening to some podcasts where I learned about some things that people were having success with. You know, finding it relatively easy to have some sustained success over a long term. And so I started to believe that it was going to be possible. But it took a lot of learning and convincing myself to make a change. So after NHC 2016 in Baltimore, I was the heaviest I'd ever been. I was 256 pounds, but Brian showed us a lot of good pizza and beer places in Baltimore, Natty Bo. So a couple months after NHC, my previous relationship ended, and I found myself with a lot more time to kind of focus on myself, and honestly needing a healthy distraction from all the things that were going on there. So I just focused on, you know, learning as much as I could, how to cook, how to, you know, lose weight, how to do some effective exercises. And within a month, I had, you know, dropped 10 pounds, which was a, you know, huge motivator for me. And just having that, seeing it drop that quickly once I was focused on it, and I just knew that I wasn't going back at that point. So. No, not quite yet. So I wanted to start off with a slide here to tell you guys what I knew wouldn't work for me from previous experience. You know, I knew that I wasn't going to count calories or track things or, you know, do the deal a meal where you're sliding the number of carb things from one side of the wallet to the other. You know, I just wasn't going to, you know, keep an app updated or a notebook. Also knew I didn't want to be distracted with hunger while I was at work. You know, for me, it's very distracting if I'm sitting there thinking about, oh, I should have a snack or whatever. I can't really focus. And I didn't want to stop enjoying life. I wanted to keep coming to homebrew meetings and going to the club picnics and enjoying those, you know, great food and beverages with good people. So where did I start? You know, I think like with most plan changes in life, it's kind of a cycle. You know, you gain a little bit of knowledge, you learn some new skills, you put these new habits into practice, you measure the results, you evaluate how it's going, you adjust and you repeat. And so I went through that multiple times. It was kind of a continuous thing on all fronts, but the presentation today kind of walks through that cycle. So hopefully that it's clear enough the way I present this to you. But as an engineer, I knew I wanted to have data to look at. So I bought a good digital scale, had a body fat measurement on it, and started recording my weight every day just on a little sticky note. Just simple, you know, date, time, weight, and kind of some notes if I had done something the previous day that, you know, maybe accounted for an uptick or a loss. And just more focused on the weight that my direction was heading, or yeah, the direction my weight was heading. Pardon that. Nowadays, there's even scales out there with, you know, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connections that'll upload your data automatically to apps and stuff. So, you know, if you're interested, they're out there. They're not cheap, and I think when I was looking at almost any source that I looked at on, you know, this type of stuff, the main thing that they said was that weighing yourself and recording it is like the best thing you can do in order to, you know, be able to understand what's happening with you and control, you know, the situation to make changes in the future. I think you guys will find that unanimously out there. A word of caution though, your weight is just it's just a number. It's a proxy that we use for tracking your progress. You know, it's an easily measured value. It represents a lot of variables. It can go up and down dramatically each day. So, you know, don't stress yourself out. Water weighs, you know, 8 pounds per gallon. So a pint, it weighs about a pound. So I found things like if I ate you know, some movie theater popcorn, you know, the next day my weight could go up 2 pounds because of stored water. Or if I'm hungover and dehydrated, you know, my weight is down 2 pounds that next day. So the actual numbers aren't as important as the direction. Also, wanted to mention something that I observed that I'd love to hear if anybody else has seen this, but I see this like 1 day delay in changes in my weight. Like if I'm particularly good one day, the next day I'm still the same weight, but then 2 days later the weight goes down. And then same with if I'm bad, you know, if I have Thanksgiving, the next day I'm the same, and then 2 days from then the weight goes up. So I can't explain it, but it does something to my body where it happens over a period of time. Um, some advice says to announce your plans if you're going to make a change like this. Tell your friends and family so they can support you on your journey. I mean, I think that works if you're studying for your MBA or some kind of an exam. But I just made it a personal thing. I really didn't want to make a big show of it or commit to something out loud and then not follow through with it. I just wanted to make some changes and see what I could do. And believe me, your friends and family will all notice the changes. They're all going to ask you, "Hey, what are you doing?" They may see your new habits and ask. You just say you're trying some new things and you're happy, you're seeing some good results. And then another early first step was purge the house of junk food. Take willpower out of the equation early on. Was just make sure that I didn't have access to my favorite. For me, it was tortilla chips and salsa, ice cream, candy, other stuff that I can't resist. Especially when you get a little buzz going, all of a sudden those Oreos are calling your name, and one Oreo turns into 5, and you know where that goes. And then go to the store and get some healthier options, so that you've got those on hand when you need them in those situations. Now, this is my actual data. You can see tracking back from 2016, big drop, but a couple of plateaus. I allowed myself to stabilize, and we'll talk about that a little bit. And then my notes, recently, Super Bowl, wings, cake, beer. I try to keep notes of what happened so I understand how my body responds. Okay, so taking a step back here, 6 months before I really made any of the physical type changes, I did start working on trying to understand my mental state better. Mainly it was my work was very hectic, a lot of stress there, and I needed some sort of portable calm to take me with me wherever I went, deal with the stress. And again, podcasts, from people I respect, Sam Harris, Tim Ferriss, they were talking about, the value of developing some mental awareness, mindfulness through meditation practice. And so I heard enough people mention the benefits of that, and I never heard anybody talk about a downside other than the 10 minutes a day that you're going to spend on it. And so I started with the free 2-week trial on the Headspace app. They call it Take 10, and it introduces a lot of the principles of meditation. And then it's free for anybody. You guys can sign up and you can go through those lessons as many times as you want. And looking back now, I really feel like that work on the mental part really planted the seeds for me to begin, gaining control and being able to make the changes that I wanted to make. So I don't want to go too deep into this. This is a homebrew club meeting. Actually, let me refill my beer here right quick. Yay. But I did want to, mindfulness can be a lifelong journey. And the results can be really profound depending on, the person and how deep you're willing to go there. But I just want to summarize a few key points of the things that I found. And then we can get back to how it relates to the hobby. Things I learned, so simple is not the same as easy. Focusing on your breath is simple, but your thoughts are going to continually arise, feelings, emotions. So it's not easy to truly focus, for more than a couple breaths. That's normal, just in case anybody's ever tried this. But if you observe those thoughts, they will unravel and pass. And I think that's an important aspect too, because things like hunger or pain can also unravel and pass if you focus on them. Let me see. There's a brief moment between stimulus and response. So a lot of people are walking automatons. They don't realize it, but something happens to them. They react in an instant way. But with practice, you can take that moment and you can evaluate the options that you have and choose a more thoughtful response to whatever arises, rather than allowing a mindless sort of knee-jerk reaction to something. Another big lesson, and this applies to the weight loss or anything else really, is beginning again. So if you find yourself while you're meditating lost in thought, you catch yourself in that state, you basically, all you can do is begin again. You don't beat yourself up over it. You don't, I'm a terrible meditator, I'm never going to get this. No, you just start again with following the breath. Same applies for your journey to better health. Be kind to yourself. You're going to make mistakes, but simply acknowledge it, start again. I think that's an important lesson that I got from this. Mindfulness can improve other areas of life as well. There's no such thing as boring anymore for me, because there's infinite things to focus on that you didn't realize were happening. So, even doing housework, you can focus on the various tingling, pressure, weight, sounds. All those things were happening before you looked at them, but you just didn't realize it. It also can alleviate frustration by being able to accept the present moment. You're stuck in traffic. You're causing yourself pain if you're sitting there being angry about it. I mean, it's already happening, so you might as well welcome it and deal with the fact that it's happening and accept it. And then just another point here is thinking about who else in your life might benefit from you being a little calmer, a little less reactive, a little less anxious. That's an important thing. Can I get a thumbs up, Candy? Yeah, she says yes. Okay, good. All right. So in the beginning, you need to find some sources of trustworthy knowledge, and I'm gonna speak out of both sides of my mouth here tonight, because I'm gonna tell you, start with people that have succeeded as a good starting point to find out what did they do, where did they find out the information. Find sources of information that don't really stand to gain by selling you some specific product. I prefer, peer-reviewed scientific literature over sort of anecdotal stuff. And here's where I speak out of the other side of my mouth, but listen to me tonight, because I'm going to tell you guys some anecdotes. But just because some guy on the internet says that he lost 20 pounds eating ice cream, doesn't make there a factual connection between those two things. Oops, sorry about that. Back it up. There we go. Okay. Sorry, I lost my place. Went the wrong place. So a few resources that can help. Good places to start, dietdoctor.com. They've got a lot of information on, it's a lot of keto type stuff. So I kind of picture that as a bit of a cult that I just wasn't ready to go all in on. But a lot of low carb information and research by medical professionals. Also a lot of good recipes, kind of rated recipes. Nutritionfacts.org also is a nonprofit. And they do the work of researching the medical research themselves and telling you what the latest and greatest information is that seems to be fact. They don't have a dog in the hunt. They're not trying to sell you anything. They just provide some recommendations. So once you've learned a little bit, you're going to be shocked here. Surprise, it's what your gym teacher told you in first grade. It's all about balancing diet and exercise. Can we stop the presentation now? Not quite. Let me tell you a few things in some more helpful ways. But personally, 90% of my weight loss was done in the kitchen. It wasn't at the gym. I wasn't working out every day. I wasn't doing a whole heck of a lot more exercise. Your balance may be totally different than mine, but what I'm trying to say is you can have a massive tug of war balance where you eat nothing but Skittles, but then you run ultra marathons. Okay, that's a type of balance. Or you could do some things to, make what you eat healthier to match the level of exercise that you're willing to do. These days, I always ask myself, is it worth the calories, essentially? If you have a deal with yourself where you're going to balance this out at some point in the future, you agree that, I'm going to make up for this, and you stick with that, you have to then ask yourself, am I willing to do the other part to balance this out? And that either means being at the gym longer or, eating really well for the next couple of days until it balances out. But be honest with yourself and ask yourself how much work you're willing to put in. For like a mediocre Vaughn's birthday cake at the office, you could skip that one. But, if grandma's made her famous apple pie, well, get a slice of that. Just make sure you make it up to yourself later. And then, knowledge is half the battle. So, a 19% alcohol imperial stout, can have 90 calories per fluid ounce. 2,250 calories per bottle. So just, you got to be honest with yourself about, am I really going to do the work to make this up to myself later? You watch the numbers on the scale as you're recording them every day, and you're going to understand the effects of what happened yesterday, and you decide how to adjust from there. But at a certain point, you just got to be honest with yourself. Plateaus. Take a sip. Is this the mile? Cool. Oh yeah, Bob McKay's on the line. Bob, this is the last few bottles of the mild we made based on your recipe, by the way. A mild being a low alcohol, relatively low calorie beer. And delicious, even after a year. So most weight loss advice will tell you to lose your body weight, lose weight in increments. They say 10%. So a 200-pound person wants to lose 20 pounds and then stay there for up to 6 months. Stabilize before going on to the next interval. Plus, I say you've earned yourself a break by that point anyway. So I found it nice to be able to set a goal, work hard for it, get to that point, buy yourself some new clothes, get your feet under you, enjoy life for a moment, and then commit to the next increment. I also think it's good advice to set your end goal weight. Where do you actually want to finish this thing out? Where's enough so that you know that you're not going to end up with some eating disorder or being terribly underweight. I'd suggest if it's your first time, shoot for the upper end of the normal body mass index range. So for a 5'10" person, that was 180 pounds. So I set that for myself. And it was a deal I made with myself. When I got to that point, I don't need to try anymore. I'm there. I can relax and enjoy. I set an upper limit 5 pounds above that, which I'll allow myself if we're on vacation or we're over the holidays. But when I hit that 5 pounds over, I generally take some evasive action of some sort. And that's, that can be lots of different things, but mostly I just start watching it again for a little while, and then I move right back to the target range. So pretty straightforward. Okay, so let's talk some specifics here. And I apologize, some of these things are repetitive. This slideshow is put together in pieces, and I realize I said the same things in multiple places. Gotta call those out. But by watching your weight measurement each day, you become aware of the cause and effect, which is very important. And for me, I was able to stop making big mistakes where I started seeing these massive swings, the pizza party followed by the club picnic, followed by the quaff camp out or whatever. Or at least choose which mistakes you're willing to make and that you want to make. That's the other important thing. To get started, I followed the slow carb diet, which is in Tim Ferriss's book called The 4-Hour Body. He's the same guy that wrote 4-Hour Work Week. You may be familiar with him. We'll talk a little bit more about him at the end here, but any change that you want to make is going to require some actual change. But I knew I wasn't going to follow a bunch of complicated eating rules. I've seen the zone diet and those other things, and there's no way I was going to keep up with that. But a diet, some simple eating rules, slow carb will get you kick-started and seems to allow for relatively easy compliance. I think a lot of people find it pretty easy to stick with. So, but there are rules, of course, and some guidelines to follow. And they recommend, eating 30 grams of protein within 30 minutes of waking up. So that is, that's a lot. That's a lot more than people are doing generally, I would say. 3 eggs will get you there. Each egg is about 10 grams of protein, but that could be a lot for a breakfast. Get rid of the sugary breakfast cereal and switch to eggs and spinach. What I found was that helped decrease the hunger that I felt the entire day. I just wasn't as hungry after doing that breakfast. Another rule, avoid drinking calories. This is pretty straightforward, but, lean towards the water, sparkling water, tea, drop sugar from the coffee, avoid, sugary juices, soda, those types of things that are just pure calories, unless you're willing to do the work to balance those out. It's an easy source of cutting out calories. Avoid sugar, white carbohydrates. Yeah, that means bread, rice, pasta, potatoes, all those things. But they do include beans, so that's why it's called the slow carb diet. Beans are sort of digested differently than some of those simpler starches. He recommends avoiding fruit, which is tasty and can be added back to your diet when you hit your goal weight or as a treat. But generally, it's not helpful when you're trying to lose weight to have blood sugar spikes from fruit, and eliminating most dairy. So, there's a lot of rules here. Some other guidelines they give you, eat the same meals over and over again. You'll find that, I don't know if that's intended so that you get bored with it and you don't need to eat as much or what, but it's it's just one of the rules that they seems to help. Then take one, they call them cheat days. I call them treat days. I figure it's like you've earned it at that point. Take a day off every week and appreciate all the foods and drinks you love so that you're not feeling like you're deprived. But learn how to minimize the impact of those treat days. There's some things you can do there. Okay, so I understand if Andy mutes my microphone and decides to move on with the meeting after this next point, but at the beginning, avoiding alcohol will help maximize your weight loss. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. It's something I didn't learn until relatively recently. I'd say within a year that I want to share with you guys on that. But the initial weight drop I found was worth it to really motivate you to kind of continue in that direction and not allow yourself to backslide. See. Your tastes are going to change over time. I couldn't believe when I first started craving veggies. That was weird for me. Some things that used to taste bland to me now taste sweet. And things that are actually sweet seem a little over the top to me now. So, your taste will adjust to what you're actually eating. People recommend drinking plenty of water, always for good health, but also to dilute your digestion. Helps you feel full. Some people want to feel full at the end of a meal and, satisfied. I was one of those people. Another little hack here is if you start your meals with fat, like avocado or some sort of lean protein, like chicken breast or tuna, your blood sugar curve for the meal will be flattened. We've learned a lot about flattening the curve recently and how good that can be for pandemics. It can be good for your blood sugar curve too, in terms of signaling your body to release insulin and store extra calories as fat. The flatter your curve, the less that occurs, and so it's important to not eat dessert first. And you've always heard this tip from your mom and everybody else, but take your time, spread your meals out over half an hour, savor each bite. Make the meal an event. That also helps to flatten the blood sugar curve. Chew a lot, let the flavor pass, have a sip of water, appreciate the texture, so this is tying in like the mindfulness thing, being aware of the food that you're eating, and then eat the next bite like it's your first. And you'll find it easier to eat like that. Exercise, our old arch enemy. So now we talked a little bit about gaining knowledge. Let's talk about some of the new practices that you'll probably want to look into adopting. I don't typically have a lot of free time. So I want my exercise to achieve a very specific goal within the least amount of time possible. And when doctors are prescribing medicines for patients, they refer to a concept, the minimum effective dose. If I give you 50 milligrams of something that does the job, if I give you 100 milligrams, it may not necessarily be better. So I was looking for the minimum effective dose of exercise that was gonna get the results that I was looking for. Some techniques I learned that I don't know if these are secrets. I'm dying to know how many of these you guys have heard of before. I think a lot of this stuff is just entering the mainstream now. But enhanced fat burning. If you exercise in the morning after sort of fasting from the evening before, your body will be in a fasted state, and you'll actually access your stored fat as an energy source for the workout. So you burn off your fat because you don't have any other sugar in your system floating around. Also, longer sort of moderate intensity cardio sessions help burn off excess calories in your system. So you can do that while you're watching TV or surfing the web, on a treadmill or elliptical or bike. They make these nice shelves now that hold laptops and those types of things. High intensity interval training. This was a bit of a buzzword a couple years ago, but essentially it means, going all out for a brief period and then recovering. And what it does is they found that it extends your fat burning well beyond the time that you're actually working out, for up to 24 hours after the workout. the single best exercise that people recommend for that is kettlebell swings. It really can burn a lot and get you out of breath real quick. But make sure you watch videos and learn how to do them right, so you don't hurt yourself. A lot of people, throw a kettlebell through a window or hit themselves in the knee or pull their lower back. So just be careful with them. I personally got an adjustable kettlebell like this where I could add different plates to it as I needed them. And I started out with it basically empty just to learn the techniques. Now I use ice hockey for this. I'm back playing hockey, so 1 to 2 minute shift on the ice, all out, and then get off the ice to the bench and let somebody else go, and then drink a lot of beer after the game. Wait, that's not part of it. It is definitely part of it, but it's not part of the healthy tips. So then there's some exercises that target specific body parts. Don't want to go into this too much. This is pure vanity, but hey, it does look better. So if you want to have bigger biceps, do some curls. Make sure you go 5 seconds up. There you are, Nikki. There you are. Yeah, buddy. Nice work. Make sure you limit your weight so that you can do at least 10 reps of those, unless you're really going for, Schwarzenegger guns. But take 5 seconds up, 5 seconds down. Push-ups are good. One exercise I didn't know about I hate them, but they're effective, is this myotatic crunch. You see the guy working on that Bosu ball there. They're essentially twice as effective as regular crunches. 20 of these, 3 sets of 20, and the next day you're going to be in pain. But they really do help reveal what's underneath and starts to show some definition. So it's, a motivator. And then I recommend you take photos of yourself every 5 pounds you lose, or have somebody else take photos of you. Put those in a safe place. But someday you may want to look back and see the process. A lot of people recommend taking measurements and things too, biceps and all that stuff. I didn't go through all that. I don't feel like I missed anything. So what was I surprised to learn? Medical research takes a long time to enter the mainstream. They say up to 13 years. So a lot of the things that I'm talking about here today are, they're fringe ideas at the moment, but we may one day accept them all as truth. I hope. Some of them may be disproven. Some of our human instincts, evolutionary instincts, work against us in the present day. We're not roaming the savannah anymore. Another thing I learned was the way you eat can be important also. Sometimes it's important as what you're eating. And oops, let me go back. Sorry, just click the mouse button. And the other thing I didn't know, and I still just recently figured out, was how distilled spirits work. Alcohol and calories. Well, there's no sugar in there. As long as you're not talking about Kahlua or something. So what's the story? Like, why are there calories in whiskey? And we'll go into each of those a little bit. Okay, so human instincts working against us in the modern world. So humans were designed to consume excess calories when they're available, like at a Las Vegas buffet. Or, hey, you came across a fruit tree that's got a bunch of ripe pears. They're not going to be there next week. It's time to eat, So the body stores that extra calories as fat to enable survival through periods of scarcity. So, the body's regularly switching back and forth from fat burning mode to fat storage mode. And to lose weight, you need to keep your body in the fat burning mode more often than in the fat storage mode. It's that simple. So there's different ways to do that, and we'll talk a little bit about those. But humans who had bigger appetites and ate more may have been more likely to survive and have better opportunity to pass on their genes. So those genes are still with us here today, which makes us hungry for donuts. And you may have noticed this. I had an instinct about this too, but you always, they say if it tastes good, it's probably not good for you. There's something to that. We're instinctively drawn to calorically dense, sugary, starchy, fatty, salty foods because your body wants to store them for future needs. So things like soft drinks and candy have sugar in them. Bacon has some fat in it. And we're even more drawn to overeating things that have combinations of those traits. So ice cream has sugar and fat. Pizza has fat, starch, and salt. French fries, starch, and fat. So those things, we just can't control ourselves. It's, gaining weight is your body's perfectly normal response to an abnormal situation where we have almost unrestricted access to cheap, calorically dense foods. We have limited time to plan our meals. shop for often expensive quality ingredients, prepare healthy food, and a lot of bad information out there. Okay, so the way we eat is also important. Blood sugar curves, insulin, and the body's response. A calorie is not, it turns out, not a calorie. Calorie is a convenient unit of measure for a laboratory, but it's not really what you eat, but what you absorb that counts as calories to your body. For instance, carrot juice is almost 100% absorbed in your body. But if you eat a whole bunch, the equivalent amount of carrots, because of the fiber and the particles, a whole bunch of those calories are going to pass right through you. Let's not get into details there, but it really matters what's absorbed. And there's a lot of tricks and hacks out there that people seem to have found that help, that play on that fact. You guys can find those. I haven't really messed with those too much at this point, but one of the books I'm reading has a lot of that in it. But easily absorbed calories like sugar and carbs will spike your blood sugar, put you in storage mode. There's a few foods out there that are believed to blunt sugar spikes when taken before a meal. Things like lemon juice, vinegar, or cinnamon. People, they swear by them. Turmeric, I think I've heard recently, or black cumin, some interesting things that people just will take and all of a sudden they don't gain weight. A blood sugar spike comes with a carb crash afterwards, and often, a lot of intense feelings of hunger. So, when you're feeling low blood sugar, it's an old, I don't want to say it's a myth, but it's common knowledge that, an hour after eating your Chinese food, all that rice, you're going to be hungry again because the blood sugar dips, and there you are. You have hunger or feelings of hunger again. But it's not common knowledge that, lower glycemic foods lead to a gentler blood curve and less intense hunger afterwards. So it's important to, avoid eating, starch or sugar first. They bring that basket of bread or those tortilla chips that can really steepen the blood curve and put your body in storage mode early in the meal. And that may prime your body for storing, otherwise good calories, things like broccoli or meat that would be coming later in the meal. Now you're going to actually store that extra calories as fat. Eating low glycemic foods first will, like we mentioned, like avocado, can blunt the curve. And if you focus on eating low calorie density foods, you'll actually feel full with fewer calories consumed. So things like broccoli, Greek yogurt, soup, things that are big volume, low calories, berries, eggs, fish, cottage cheese, even watermelon is relatively low caloric density food. But again, I'm not a doctor. Do your own research, decide for yourself what works for you. I see we're butting up against 47 minutes here already, so I'm gonna try to speed it up a little bit. Intermittent fasting. This has been all the rage the last few years, but it's called skipping breakfast. So you basically give your body a period of time. Most people shoot for 16 hours where you don't have any calories. So you add some water, you're drinking black coffee or tea, but you go from 8 p.m. till noon the next day, and it gives your body a chance to recover and burn some of the calories off that you had for lunch or dinner the day before. And then you'll eat between noon and 8 p.m. and do it again the next day. It's a great shortcut to put your body into fat burning mode. I started this much later after I actually hit my goal weight, but I use it to help me maintain. And something you should be aware of is that you will get this sort of little lightheadedness that's called the keto buzz. And it can be nice, but it can also have some negative effects. I get cold when I'm fasting. So I'll tend to do a little exercise, squats or push-ups to warm up. But some folks feel dizziness or lightheadedness or inattentiveness. So if you got a big, important client meeting or something, you may want to skip the fast for that day. Have breakfast. Alcohol. So I promised this one. So, distilled spirits do have calories, but where do they come from? There's no carbs, there's no protein, there's no fat in there. But I have some bad news for you. I say bad news because I'm guessing 90% of you guys don't even know this next thing. Alcohol is a fourth macronutrient, along with protein, carbohydrates, and fat. But it's rarely discussed because it's not essential for human survival. And your body processes it different than the other three macronutrients. You guys may know that. But it contains 7 calories per gram for alcohol, compared with 4 calories per gram for carbs, or for proteins, and 9 calories per gram for fat. So it's almost equivalent to like a shot of olive oil or butter. In fact, your body sees alcohol as a poison that actually needs to be metabolized first. So your fat burning process totally shuts down whenever you got alcohol in your body. So, drinking booze and then eating bad foods is a double whammy. And you don't want to drink and get on the treadmill because you're not going to see the benefits until you sober up anyway. And you might fall down. Also want to acknowledge some things that get in the way, make it more complicated for you guys to make changes if you're considering it. But I'm very fortunate that I don't have children for making these changes. But if you're trying to modify your lifestyle and you have kids that are fussy eaters, or a partner that you need to bring along with you, it's more difficult to get moving on these changes. It's a lot more difficult to maintain changes when you're traveling or when you've got a lot of stress on you, work or personal travel. But I think I was fortunate to have a little bit extra money to be able to invest in some of this equipment and the knowledge, and I had some free time to be able to think ahead, plan meals, shop, and cook. But just acknowledging that restraining forces can hold you back there too. So if we were doing this in person, I was going to give you guys some snacks. Sorry. He's got the almonds out. Yes, thanks, Nick. I've become known recently for making different batches of nuts and sharing them with people. But some of my favorites are, they call them tease nuts. Some of my favorites are toasted macadamia nuts. You can get these at Costco. Bag like this is, it's 24-ounce bag, pretty big, for, I don't know, $16. They're relatively cheap. And what you probably didn't know is everybody thinks, well, macadamia nuts are fattening, yes, but they have very low carbs, one of the lowest carb nuts out there. So if you're being good and not in storage mode, you can have snacks like this. So it'll be very satisfying and won't spike your blood sugar. I knock off some of the salt in a colander with and then hit them with a little wet paper towel and then put them in the oven on a tray, 400 degrees for, I don't know, 20 minutes till they're nice and brown. And I make multiple bags at a time. The other thing I make is French toast pecans. So put a little bit of maple flavoring in, along with some cinnamon, maybe some cayenne pepper, some salt. Try to avoid maple syrup for obvious reasons. And another thing that I've really taken a liking to is cucumbers. Instead of tortilla chips, I'll dip a cucumber into just about any kind of dip these days. Cut it on an angle so it's got a nice sharp edge that you can use for dipping stuff out. Yeah, okay. So where am I at now? My current approach. So like I said, I hit my goal weight a couple of years ago, but I wanted to talk, a little bit about what I'm doing now. I'm not really following that specific diet anymore. I think I've learned enough about how my body responds. So I'm trying to not drive myself or everyone around me crazy by avoiding carbs, but I do try to plan and cook as much of my own food as I can, so I can control what's happening there, eating simple, fresh, whole ingredients with low caloric density. Try to avoid processed foods, except for when I need the Oreos. I try to eat. See, here's a tip too. Do you guys know above ground veggies have a lot fewer calories than below ground veggies? Carrots have higher caloric content than spinach, on a weight basis. They also have a lot of fiber. I eat a lot of lean meats, nuts, occasional fruit, but I still try to avoid juice unless we're mixing it into a cocktail. I try to avoid drinking calories still, the exception being tiki drinks. The rules are off if you're at Trader Sam's. Fair game. Avoid sugars and white starches when it's easy. I get the burger in a lettuce wrap, or I've discovered recently Costco has riced cauliflower, which makes really good base instead of like for Indian food or whatever you want to put on top of it. I'll mix it up and not always drink beer. Drink Pinot Noir distilled spirits. And I typically fast now from evening till, after lunch the next day. I don't do the 30 grams of protein within 30 minutes of waking, but it definitely did help get me started. I no longer schedule treat days, but you know, I'm usually good a couple days before going to Disneyland and a couple days afterwards, but I'm getting the Dole Whip, damn it. Um, so healthy hacks for making food easier. Make a big meal on Sunday that you can put in containers and take it for lunch throughout the week. Chili, eggs with vegetables, oven roasted veggies are good. Costco bag of salad with rotisserie chicken's real good, easy. Um, I try to keep good snacks around so I have something when I get hungry. I can dip cucumbers into bitchin sauce, you know, which is made from almonds, or guacamole. Um, keep dark chocolate around for emergencies. Another tip that I learned along the way was shopping the perimeter of the grocery store. So I never really saw this before, but you know, if you think about the fresh food things in the store, the produce aisle, the deli, the dairy, and the beer aisle, they're all on the outside for the most part. And I tend to avoid the rows and rows of, you know, there's a cookie aisle and there's an ice cream aisle. So I try not to even go down those things too much temptation. That stuff shows up enough in my life without me having to buy it for myself. It's always at the office or a friend's house. Exercise. I do a little bit of exercise, stretching, push-ups, lunges and curls in the morning. Play hockey once a week. We drink beer. We take recreational walks, bike rides. Meditation. I do about 10 minutes meditation every day after I've done my little exercise to kind of bring myself in touch with my body, and then I still track my weight every day and try to understand what happened, you know, the day before. At work, my building's only 3 floors, but I always take the stairs. It's a simple one. I use a standing desk when I can. Simple, you know, work, spreadsheet work, answering emails. I have a Bluetooth headset so I can wander around. And I use this wobble cushion on my chair. I gotta say, it's not anything earth-shattering, but it does give you a little bit of core instability. So, you know, all day you're kind of adjusting to it. I don't know. It's fun. So what have been some of the benefits I've noticed? I definitely don't sweat as much as I used to. I used to get out of breath or, you know, just sweaty all the time, very warm. But on the other side, now I need a jacket indoors. I'm in my house right now and I'm having to wear my fleece, although getting a little warm at the moment. I used to get heartburn and acid reflux, and I don't get that anymore. I don't have to keep Tums in the glove box or at my desk anymore, which is nice. I can tie my shoes. I fit way more comfortably in the airplane seats, which is nice. I qualified for long-term care insurance, which I didn't qualify before. I've also found I get fewer colds. Some people say that fasting helps with that. I'm not sure if that's... Hey, thanks, Josh. And then on the picture there, that was Valentine's Day dinner. So we had a little filet mignon. Lobster is cheap at Costco right now. Some roast carrots, roast broccoli, some roast Brussels sprouts, and a side of mushrooms in a red wine sauce. I mean, that's basically how I tend to eat when I can. So in the interest of full disclosure, I still struggle to maintain balance sometimes. You know, I still have stress eating issues, working late deadlines, and I have a bag of Halloween candy in the desk at work for just such purposes, little rewards. I do find that when I'm drinking, I make bad decisions about what to eat. So I try to limit the types of snacks we have in the house. Quarantine aside, I mean, this is survival right now. But I tend to hit the forget it button and not make as good at options. Parties, I still struggle with that because everybody makes good food and I want to try everything. I don't want to miss out on any home cooking or feel preachy or high maintenance or whatever weird to my friends and family. When traveling, it's tough to plan meals. It's tough to fit, but healthy options exist out there if you look. There's a lot of good articles on that. If you're around me at all, you'll find I'm a carb enabler now. I push all my extra carbs to the poor people around me. Take all my leftover treats to the office on Monday and put them in the kitchen for everybody else to eat. I pick the cashews out of my Costco fancy mixed nuts and take those to the office because cashews have 16 grams of carbs per serving, and the other ones are almonds and things are more in the 4 to 6 grams range. Still trying to figure out how to deal with a little bit of loose skin, but figuring that out. I probably drink too much coffee. They say it's an appetite suppressant, but 4 or 5 cups a day is probably too much. I'm trying to alternate with herbal tea. I probably eat too much meat, especially cured meats, lunch meats. They're just very convenient. And then meditation-wise, my main thing is I get Weird Al songs stuck in my head and on a loop. I cannot get them out of my head. It's one thing for a thought of, oh, I have to do this later today, to jump into my mind and to push it aside and focus on my breath. But when tacky or aluminum foil gets stuck in my head, it's all over. A few final healthy hacks, not related to eating or meditation. Let's start with relationships. So count your blessings if you have a partner who brews or really supports your hobby. Planning and brewing and packaging and blending and club meetings all take time away from your loved ones. So I think it's important for you guys and girls to have an open and honest conversation with your partners about what your brew plans are, and hear what their quality time expectation plans are, or expectations are, and have that conversation. Listening, of course, to body language and their tone, as well as just what the words that they're saying. It's just important for that to balance out with your relationships, to keep your hobby and be happy. Somebody asked me previously about supplements. I'm not really big into taking supplements. I do take some fiber to kind of keep things moving along with the increased protein that I eat. I take a vitamin D because almost everyone is low in vitamin D, and my doctor said so. And then I take B complex because I drink, and we tend to lose those B vitamins when we're consuming alcohol. So where do you guys go from here? Through a lot of ideas in a relatively short time there. I see I'm crossing an hour. Apologize, guys. I have to tighten this up. So what are some things you guys might want to think about after tonight's meeting? One I mentioned early on, I'd use this COVID-19 downtime, if you've got that to spare, to start thinking about whether you want to make some changes, spend some time learning what you might do, reading up, practicing cooking some healthy options. You have complete control over your diet right now, unless you're forced to eat out at restaurants for some reason, traveling. I'd encourage you guys to learn to brew delicious session beers. I personally love them. My go-tos: wit beer, Scottish ales, mild, Berliner Weiss. My suggestion is get Jennifer Talley's book called Session Beers. I think the main tip on that is mash high to retain some body in your session beers. And then just want to throw an idea out there that we did at Quaff 2014. We actually had a group of folks that came together for a weight loss challenge. We called it Quaff's Biggest Loser. And it was a 4-month competition amongst 14 people in the club. Put in a prize that was, $20 or more, some sort of a gift card or a water bottle or an REI gift certificate, those types of things. And we took some measurements, baseline weight, monthly weight readings, and and a weigh-in at the end, the final. And it was all based on who lost the largest percentage of body weight loss, like the Biggest Loser TV show, as opposed to, just numbers of pounds lost. I don't know if anybody on the phone here actually participated in that. But
Brian was just mentioning Brian Favela.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know if Brian Favela is a barley engineer, but he was our winner, and he lost a total of like 14 pounds over the time, and he's managed to keep it off this time. As a group, we lost 84 pounds. And more importantly, I think we had a separate email list where we were focused on sharing information. And then we got together every 2 weeks to kind of talk on a hike or take a bike ride. Or one day we did a CrossFit session with Mike Sangiorgi. I don't know if you guys know him. He's a personal trainer in Quaff, and he about made me want to throw up. So that wasn't fun. Just some references for you guys. The 4-Hour Body. Tim's a self-professed, human guinea pig. He tests things out on himself and sees what works for him. That's what got me started. He talks about the minimum effective dose of exercise. He talks about blood sugar spikes. His blog has a lot more information, along with other people that are going through it, that you can lean on for support. I think you can ignore the ice baths discussion and the crazy supplement regimen that he recommends. I don't know. I wasn't willing to go that far in my quest to lose weight. Putting myself in a bathtub full of ice. I've tried a lot of different meditation apps. That's actually a shot from my phone screen there. Breathe, Insight Timer, 10% Happy. They all have their strengths and weaknesses, but I think the easiest for beginners would be Headspace. I think it's the most user-friendly. Walk you through the intro. The founder is a former Buddhist monk, and the animations really help cement the concepts in your mind and the techniques. And I recently, with all the the COVID-19 anxiety and things building up and stress, I actually re-upped with them and got another 1-year subscription. I hadn't been with them for a while, but I'm back. DietDoctor.com we talked about before. Great website. And what I'm reading now is How Not to Diet by Michael Greger. He's also tied to that nutritionfacts.org. But again, he's he walks you through how we got here, what's the fake news about all these other diets that are out there, and then only what's shown by the medical evidence, to be best for weight loss and general health. He wrote another book called How Not to Die. I haven't read that one yet, but he's big into that type of stuff. So I guess with that, I want to say thanks. And Andy, I don't know how you want to open it up for questions or discussion, but I apologize that went a good 20 minutes longer than I expected.
Well, this is your practice, so you can see how it goes. Yes, we do want to open it up for discussions, but the first thing, if you guys go down to your reactions tab at the bottom right there, you see the little hand clapping thing. Give that one a go right there. You can clap your hands for the presentation. And then we'll start. There you go. You see a lot of thumbs up, clapping hands. That's good.
Hey. Thanks, guys.
And, so we'll get some questions going right here. You can either put them up on the chat box here, and Chris and I will pick them up, or you can do the raise your hand thing from the Manage Participants tab, and we'll pick up the questions. And while you guys are lining up your questions,